Welcome to the Christian Consciousness Movement, awakening and activating the Christian consciousness. Today is July 3rd, 2021, 6:43 p.m. and this episode is called There is No Such Thing as Toxic Femininity, Just Women Also Expressing Toxic Masculinity. And the reason why I brought this topic up is it's been something that's on my mind for a long time now, to make an episode on. And I realized that the other day I was watching mediocre tutorial and reviews, and he had a video where it says basically this video right here, right, and I'm gonna show what he says, but he brought up something interesting, which is like I've been saying it about the term toxic femininity, that it doesn't actually exist, and that basically women are expressing toxic masculinity. But I noticed that it goes over a lot of people's head. The other day I was even in the comment section with somebody on YouTube trying to break it down, and this is what led to me saying I probably need to make a video on this to break down, because people are using terms, and there's times you can use terms in certain ways, and it's like, I know what you're saying, but based on the actual context of the words used and the definition, that wouldn't be how you describe it. So, before we get into the video, right, when I said there's no such thing as toxic femininity, just women expressing toxic masculinity, I just want to share what mediocre tutorial reviews had said in his video, right here.
This is that I see this component of asking, does toxic masculinity exist? And here's one of my positions, is I think if you want to say that it exists, which I actually don't think the word is real, I think it's just toxic people. Like, this is a toxic person. But if it does exist, then women exhibit toxic masculinity more than men. That's one of my positions. Okay? Shout out to the ones that date the alpha, the Pookie, and the Ray Ray. Okay? You're exhibiting toxic masculinity because you're assigning masculinity to hood booger behavior. I'm so sorry.
Alright, so that right there, I want to take it off that lady because her chest was showing. That right there, he's very correct in terms of that these women are expressing toxic masculinity. But you see, a lot of people will use the word toxic femininity, and really what they're trying to say is a feminine being who's behaving masculine by saying toxic femininity. The reason for that is because femininity or feminine principles cannot be toxic, right? Because toxic is also a masculine term. So if you see here in this document I have here, right, I said it's important to basically understand the masculine principle, feminine principle, right? Understand the difference between a masculine being, which is a man, right, and a feminine being, which is a woman. So, as you can see, we understand this. Now, we must understand, as I studied the difference between yin and yang, and feminine and masculine principles, and like nature, and all this, which is called gender nature, right? Yes, although I'm a masculine being, I also have a component of masculine aspects to me and feminine aspects to me. Same thing with a woman who is a feminine being. She can have an aspect of masculine aspects to her and feminine aspects to her, because there's always that balancing factor. Now, when we go to terms that are masculine, we can say that, leadership, leader, confident, strong, powerful, those are masculine terms. Terms that now would be referring to toxic masculinity, which is just trying to say overly masculine, right? Overly masculine, because words like overly is just to express the more of something. They're neither masculine or feminine. These are words that you use to say something is going over, right? Would be controlling, boastful, aggressive, manipulating, which we see a lot of women expressing. So really, a lot of women are expressing toxic masculine behaviors or masculinity themselves. Now, people would be disagreeing with me saying, no, it's toxic femininity because they're women. And I'm like, no. This is why men are saying women are too masculine and need to be more feminine. If toxic femininity was an expression of women being more feminine in a toxic way, that wouldn't make sense, because we'd be saying they're overly feminine, and we're saying women are not even feminine, which means they're being more masculine. So how can we then say it's toxic femininity? Because what they're trying to say is a feminine being who is operating in overly masculine principles, which men are saying women are being too masculine, but to the point that it's overly masculine, that is also a manifestation of toxic masculinity, the very same traits that women will complain that men have. Oh, he's too controlling. Oh, he's too boastful. Oh, he's too aggressive. Oh, he's too manipulative. That's what a lot of women will say. I don't want to be with a man like that, because I don't want to, be submissive or whatever like that, which is a different topic. So now these women are expressing the same behaviors. The only thing is, when a feminine being or a woman does masculine principles, it does not manifest in the same way as when a man who's a masculine being is doing masculine principles. It's how do you put it? It's like if we were to just use, let's say, masculine and feminine, right? A masculine being a man, right, who is confident, a masculine principle, so that's masculine plus masculine, right, is going to be seen like wow. Or in most cases might be seen as toxic because it's adding masculine and masculine. While a woman who is a feminine being, right, feminine principle, who is confident, which is a masculine principle, it won't be seen at the same level of masculine as a man, because it's feminine and masculine. Basically, feminine being doing a masculine principle, so it's just not the same, right? Now, while a man, for example, I'm going to go to passive femininity, right, who's a masculine being operating kindly, right, is seen a certain way because it's a masculine being operating a feminine principle, and that's why they'll say men are too nice or whatever like that, or men can't be too nice. While if a woman who's a feminine being is being nice, it's seen more, it just looks different and it feels a little bit different, right? You can't say, oh, she's a pushover or whatever like that. So it's if you understand the wordplay of what I'm saying, it's important to understand the difference between the being and the principle, and then what is a representation of the principle going over into a way of where it's affecting people negatively. So for example, terms like feminine, kind, nice, agreeable, loving, caring, cooperateness, humility, helpful. We are saying women are not being those things. So we can't say that women are being toxic femininity if principles of femininity is a complete opposite of what toxic masculinity would be. But like I said, people are trying to express that a feminine being is just operating in a masculine way, which what people are saying. Women are being masculine, women are being masculine. But because we're trying to refer to a feminine being, we're using the term femininity. And like I said, although it makes sense to some context, some extent, when you put the context, it's not the same thing. Now, terms that are overly feminine, which you can say are passive femininity, right? So the word over is used to express the more of something. Is maybe a pushover. It can, to a sense, be very, very submissive, right? Where you just don't have a self of awareness, and which is why I can understand why women are kind of like against the word submissive, because they're thinking of like the pushover type of femininity, where they're very passive, and we're just saying, hey, cooperativeness, agreeableness, humility, helpful. So, moral of the story, masculinity becomes toxic when it affects people negatively, going past boundaries, right? And that's what a lot of women are showing. They're going past boundaries. They're attacking men's pride, men's ego, shaming, doing things that would basically affect a man negatively in an emotional way. While femininity becomes passive when it affects people negatively, not setting boundaries, when somebody just allows anybody to do anything to them, right? When somebody just doesn't care what happens to them. And this is where a lot of men now would be saying they're becoming too feminine. And the irony about this is that when men now say, okay, you know what? If me being too feminine is just allowing a woman to treat me however I want, I'm going to become more masculine. And it's crazy because now when these men become more masculine, then these women try to say, oh, you're becoming toxic. because it's a manipulative, it's like a manipulative aspect. It was just like, well, you are being masculine to me, attacking me, saying I'm a pushover. Now I'm saying, let me lead, let me be in control, right? And now you're saying I'm being overly masculine. But what Mediocre Tutorial brought up, he said the Pookies and the Ray Rays are men who express manifestations of toxic masculinity, and these are what a lot of women are attracted to. A lot of women were saying, well, if I'm masculine, if a woman's being masculine, that means for me to basically prove I'm a man to her, I have to be overly masculine to make her feel like she's in a feminine principle, when she's really not. And this is where a lot of men go into become toxic masculine, where they become super red pill or have red pill rage and all these different topics, yada yada yada, which I don't want to go into. But make a long story short, if you got anything out of this video, there's no such thing as toxic femininity. It's just women expressing toxic masculinity. Just like we say woman's intuition. A woman is feminine being, intuition is a feminine principle. We don't go and say man's intuition. We say man's instinct because instinct is a feminine principle and man is a masculine being. So there's certain, even though we're saying it unconsciously, there's certain wordplay to why we say certain things. Like, why do we say men should have trade jobs? Trade jobs are masculine type of jobs. Why we say women should have domestic jobs? Because domestic is a feminine type of job. Trade has them out there using their being, their strength, right? While domestic jobs has them inside, in the house, in a more feminine environment, protected environment, working with the kids. It's not a coincidence that we use these terms in the traditional aspects, and until we understand the context of these terms, and society's gotten complex because it's not that simple anymore, we'll get confused, like saying women are expressing toxic femininity. No, the woman lady, you're just toxic. She's toxic. And the thing is, women think they can be toxic or be toxic and get away with it because they're a feminine being, because they figure, well, at the end of the day, even though I'm being masculine, I will never be, it's subconscious, like I will never be as masculine as a man. And that's a whole other topic where it's like women do acknowledge the difference between men and women in terms of, the masculine aspect. But society just got us all confused with a whole bunch of different stuff, and I don't want to go into that right now. That's a whole different topic. But anyways, thanks for taking the time to watch this. Shout out to Mediocre Tutorial and Reviews for actually saying that statement, because the reason why I love this guy, he has the rational component of properly assessing and judging things as well, because it's going over a lot of people's head with how to use these terms and what we're referring to.